What is RAM? What does it stand for? And what do you guys do?
RAM is for random access music. Music part is pretty self explanatory. We play mostly music by living American composers, and of course, with a focus on RAM composers. And I believe they are all based in New York. And the random part that these composers had all sorts of different types of styles of music and aesthetics. So they decided they were random. And the access part, access to any and all types of music, of course, with a focus on contemporary classical music.
Give me a few examples of how random it is.
We have incredibly abstract music, the screaming, the spitting, the this and that sort of sounds. And then you have minimalist music. You have incredibly tonal music, if that is still a word that is used for music these days, if you have to define tonal. We have everything from uh, piano solos up to quintets and sextets with winds and that. We have had as guests the viol uh, Parthenia. The Queen's New Music Festival has had Nuevo Tango, jazz musicians. So that's sort of the width of what we've been presenting and performing.
Do you play Bach, Beethoven, and Mozart?
They're not living. Um, we have focused almost exclusively on living composers.
And you said it just started as a composer collective?
It was Composer Collective, and the founders were Alan Schultz and David Featheroff, and I believe those were the two founders. And then they would invite friends to join RAM, and people have been coming and going since then. And Alan is still with us as a founder and member. He is the only one from that period, the early period, that is still a composer member. And in 2006, they called me to ask me to play on one of their concerts. And so I did, and then they kept calling me. And let me see, in 2014, they decided to join the players because they started using a lot of the same players for their concerts. Most of the concerts were just the music of RAM composers. Sometimes they'd have a guest composer in. So they decided we would join forces or they would invite the players to become part of RAM. And it was RAM composers and players. And so that's how I started. And now we're after our several years of stopping everything and a lot of turnover with personnel and administration and board. We're back up and running since March of this year, and that's where we are now, moving forward.
Lish, how did you get involved with RAM?
Tom Piercy needed a flute player, but I only started playing in 2019, officially in a concert, and then 2020 happened, and 2021. So I've been, yeah, kind of waiting to fully get engaged into it. So,
Okay,
but 2019 asked me, needed a flute person. I said yes.
fabulous. Francis, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a composer. I write for instrumental ensembles. I write electronic music, vocal music. I studied at the University of Maryland and at Brooklyn College, and then at Princeton. And I've been in RAM for a number of years now. um, I think since 2015. Well, I've collaborated a lot with this wonderful ensemble, Parthenia. They are a viol consort. I've written several pieces for them. In fact, I'm working on one right now. um, and when RAM first had their call for scores for the Queen's New Music Festival, this was for the first Queen's New Music Festival, Parthenia submitted a proposal that included one of my compositions. Um, then, I guess about a year later, RAM was collaborating with Parthenia, and one of the RAM composers had to pull out at the last minute, more or less, to write for Parthenia. And so Alan had liked my piece that he heard on the Queen's New Music Festival, and so he invited me. Oh, would you like to be a guest composer with RAM and write another Parthenia piece? And I said sure, because I love Parthenia. And then after that, he asked me if I wanted to join as a RAM composer, and I said yes, and here I am.
From a fairy tale. The garden was hers, and hers alone. Like everything in her life, it was quite large and was bounded by high walls. There was a loneliness about it, and she had come to take this completely for granted. There were almost no people in her life. She had no parents and no siblings, no friends and no enemies. What was there in her life? There was a luxurious suite of rooms. There were the nearly invisible servants, the indifferent nanny who had raised her. There were books, books that told stories about fantastic lands, and books that told stories about common peasants, but all told of things she had never encountered. There was music. Music played by unknown musicians who appeared and disappeared on their little balcony. There were her quiet walks in this beautiful, loveless garden. One day, while resting on a bench under a tree, a small bird appeared next to her. Because she remained indifferent to the many beauties surrounding her, she did not notice the bird at first. She did not hear its astonishing voice. But the bird returned the next day, and then again the day after that. Day after day, the bird returned to her to sing its beguiling song, ethereal notes that you could not locate precisely in pitch, key, space, or time. Later, she could not exactly recall when she first noticed the bird. She could not recall when she began looking for the bird, seeking it out every day on her walks in the garden. She could not recall when she first realized that the bird was not just singing, but that it was singing to her. And she could not recall when it was that she began to speak to the bird and to tell it her secrets. She could not remember how any of this happened, but it did. The bird sang. Her heart opened, and they fell in love.
Well, I will plug the upcoming concerts in the fall. We will have two programs. It will probably be 4 concerts. And the one that I had been wanting to happen for a number of years is the 3 quintets by Joji Yuasa, Toru Takamitsu, and Yoshio Hachimura. They, in the late 70s and early 80s, wrote these quintets. They're for flute, clarinet, harp, percussion, and piano. And these are masterpieces. And then I asked 3 RAM composers to write quintets. So we will have the 3 RAM composers, the 3 Japanese masterpieces. So I'm very excited about that. And then the other concert will be, again, RAM composers and guest composers and the instrumentation is mostly clarinet, cello, flute, and piano, with the addition of also hichiriki, a Japanese double reed instrument that I play, and uteki, which is a Japanese traditional flute that Lish plays, and bringing in a guest koto player. So I live in Tokyo in Japan, and it's great to bring these 2 worlds together. And these are in October and December. And for the Manhattan concerts, we found a new home at the Martha Graham Studios. Composers and performers who've come with me to look at the space are thrilled when you walk in. So that's the plug. Come out and see us in the fall. I want to thank those that support what we do. And without their support, it would be really hard to do what we do.
And the cat?
Well, you know, cute cats are sort of
Oh,
they're the kind of the best PR you can have. So
Yeah,
you will get more views and more thumbs up and more likes. It's been documented if you put a cat in the video.
well, Stella is doing her part, so I think she should be an honorary RAM member.
Yeah.